Located inside Patterson Park Community Center is the Washington Theater, and currently on display in their gallery is the exhibit Living in a 3D World by artists Barbara and Leroy Hodges.
This exhibit explores and examines the very intricate, complex, challenging nature that we have when we deal with the interactions of our environment or the world that we live in. We live in a world where we utilize all of our five senses. And this is so important because we're living in a time where we have numerous challenges and uncertainties that exist right now. And in this exhibit, what we hope to do was to be able to help the art audience take a tour and see how the artwork is telling the story of how we can dwell in our world and be able to react to it in a very creative and skillful manner.
Hodges hopes the exhibit will connect with those viewing it in multiple ways.
One of the goals is to engage and interact with the audience in such a way that it will allow them to have a tactile and visual stimulation. And one of the things we hope that the art audience will take away is to be able to see and understand how important it is to give a voice to the hopeless, a taste of freedom, justice, equality, and respect for everyone. And we hope that people will be able to actually, as they look at each individual pieces, which is layered, tell their own story.
The Hodges call themselves artistic storytellers, which the concept for Barbara began at a very young age.
As a child, I grew up and I was around a lot of elders, my grandparents, my parents, and one of the things they loved doing was telling a story. And we know that stories are so important because it's a way of transmitting history. Actually, it's just been able to help through collected memories be able to keep things alive.
Art, in a way, allowed me to not only engage with my community itself, but also it allows me to come back and say, okay, this is my interpretation of what the world looks like and how the world is exposed to me.
The Hodges' artistic efforts also branch out to the community as they devote time teaching both young people and seniors.
We, as a couple, started our nonprofit organization called Kids for the Creative Arts. That program started out with kids, and we started that program in 2002 here in Murfreesboro. In the later years, we started working with seniors, and of course we have two senior programs, one here at Patterson that we work with and one at SportsCom. What we try to do in those two programs is allow the seniors to help them to tell their own story. So that gave us an avenue to explore with not only the seniors, but also the young people as well.
The Hodges have utilized a number of artistic styles over the years, including most recently the world of mixed media collages.
I think as an artist, reality is you start out, you explore everything, you just experiment with it. But as time goes along, you begin to settle on maybe a particular area or combination. I did a lot of stuff dealing with oil painting, and I enjoyed doing that because of the brilliant colors. And eventually over the years, I have settled into the technique of mixed media collage because it allows me to do layering, where you can hide things and you can just bring things out. You can make it tactile. You can do a little bit of everything.
My particular style, as I view it at this point, is what I call cubism. That takes geometric shapes and create an image from there. Another thing that I like to do is what I call my blue tones. And that is a painting that's strictly shades of blue. And the piece, the Bluesman, is one of that type of thing. I have several paintings that deals with that.
Creating art is something anyone can do. All one has to do is just start.
You don't have to be an artist to be able to draw and paint. If you are able to pick up a brush, get some paint, doesn't matter, take the time to do it. You'll be so surprised at finding that creative part of you that you never even considered. And everybody loves art, and that's what I learned when we work with seniors in the community. They'll tell you, I never painted a day in my life, and they just embrace it and they just love it, and they're totally surprised at what they create and come up with. And kids who never painted.
Every work of art has a story, and the Hodges provide some background to a few of their wonderful pieces on display.
This painting, entitled "In Shadow of Liberty," examined the impact of the coal miners and the steel workers on the history of building of America. The sacrifice that these four groups did was very great. The country itself was forged, shaped, and united on the backbone of this unforgotten society. The piece itself examined what it took for America to be built. It looks at the foundation of these groups, the coal miners as well as the steel workers, and give an interpretation of how and why those particular group played. If you go back and look at the various cities and things of that nature today, without those two groups, America would not be what it is. Yes, there was a lot of sacrifice. Yes, there was a lot of heartache. But taking those two groups and put them together, we have a better place now. We have buildings that we can look at. We have bridges that we can cross. But all of this takes place within that shadow, what we call the shadow of liberty. So that's what this piece is about. Yes, we have people going back and looking at the bricks that was laid and how America was laid brick by brick. We have coal here that was created and came out of the ground. We have the steel that came from the mills and the workers and things of that nature. This piece, entitled "In the Shadow of Liberty," is a reflection of the hard work and the dedication those people gave their life to.
This painting is entitled Undertone, and this was a piece that I created using texture. That's one of the things I enjoy working with. So we have a textured background using mixed media materials. Now in undertones, it's important that you're seeing the multicolors, and these represent the different tones that may be present but yet may not be seen. When I think about this painting, I'm thinking more about the peeling off of layers. We have various colors, and these colors can represent anything from a sense of warmth, coolness, to a sense of intensity, as for example with the red color. Now, the significance of the painting is that we live in a society where we see, but yet we do not see. There are a lot of undertones. And when you think about people, we all can put on a facade where as you peel away the layers, you can see and find the true inner self. And when I did this painting, one of the things I wanted the art audience to be able to take away is that we have to make the time and the energy to look through the superficial surface, because there are maybe layers of other things that may be hidden but not yet seen, or that we simply cannot make a judgment, misinterpret, remove misconceptions that we may have about people, things, situation. So we all have to employ an extra energy to take the time to take a deeper look. And one of the key things I would like for the art audience to take away is that as human beings, we have more in common than we do differences. So undertone is just another way of saying, take a second look at what you're seeing. It may not always be what it seems. And what's interesting in this piece is I put the word I rise. And that's important because as individuals, it's important that people maintain the individuality. And some people have to rise above adverse circumstances and situations and different things. But despite it all, with humanity, we have that unique ability that we are resilient, so that each and every one of us can say, despite it all, I still rise.
This piece entitled Breaking the Chain explores the relationship between America's underclass and America's promise that was made to them. The piece looks at the hard time that underclass had, especially during the Civil Rights Movement. The piece entitled Breaking the Chains goes back and look at what it took and how America promised of freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness reflect on that underclass. How the underclass itself was burdened with a lot of unforeseen circumstances, and how they took what they had and made themselves bigger, better. And because of that, America is better today. Yes, we still have some things that we're trying to overcome, but by looking at all the obstacles and putting yourself in the place of the people that underclass, you yourself can go back and say, okay, this is my change. How can I break that? Whether that be depression, whether that be addiction, whether that be homelessness, that change, that bound up change can be broken by looking and determining the underclass portion of America today.
This type of painting is entitled Behind the Men. And there's actually an interesting story as to how this painting came about. As growing up, I was privileged to have some unique uncles and grandfathers. One thing is that my father, his 10 brothers, and his dad, they all love wearing blue jeans and they love overalls. So I think that's what intrigued me about wanting to do this painting. And when I do create a piece of artwork, naming the piece is very important to me too, because it helps me to tell the story. So in this painting, we have all these different individuals, and each one is unique and they're doing different things. So in a way, they're telling their whole story. One of the things about for the meaning is that you see these guys facing like into a black background, representing the unknown. And the painting wanted to suggest that we all have to sometime step out in faith. We have to know that everything is not going to be easy, or that we know what's going to happen. We have to have the faith to look into that which we don't know and proceed forward. Now, in creating this painting, I utilize what my current technique is, mixed media, and I am an artist who enjoy using textile or fabric. Now, when I create this mixed media collage with the fabric, it's really like putting a pattern together, piece by piece. It's very tedious. So if one doesn't have the patience to do this type of work, you're not going to enjoy doing it. This piece actually took me about 7 months to complete. We actually had to go search through numerous places like Goodwill to find the plaid shirts. And I like to put pieces in where there's folds. These folds in the fabric give you a sense of dimensionality. And what I find is that it draws you into the painting. And so many people, when they look at the paintings with the fabric, it makes them want to touch it because they just can't resist it because it just has that sense that just draws you in. So behind the men just simply represent how we have to be strong, have the faith, have the courage to go forward, even when we may not know what may lies ahead of us. And I love in my pieces throwing in a little thing where you have a little bit of fun. That's why I put this little boy into the painting. He's oblivious to what's going on with the other men in the painting, but he's having fun, chasing a butterfly. But at the same time, they're nurturing him and teaching him so that he knows what it is to be and growing up to be a strong man. So behind the men is a very kind of intriguing painting that invites the art audience to just come take a look and ask themselves, what are you looking at or facing in looking into the unknown?
As we look at this painting, the painting itself entitled Thomas Peterson, the First Black Voter. When I was thinking about what I could do, because we know that this year is the 100th year of the suffrage movement. So I was trying to look at the suffrage and say, okay, who was the first, or who was the first voter, African-American voter within the United States? And Thomas Peterson was the first one. He was a voter. He took the thing right after the 15th Amendment. Thomas Peterson became the first African American to vote in the United States. He did that on March 30th, 1870 in New Jersey. There was a ratification of the charter for the city of Ponchville, New Jersey. And they asked him to come on in, and because of his vote, the charter in that city was ratified. So Thomas Peterson is the first one to vote, and he got credit for that. The medallion you see on here is a medallion that was given to him by Abraham Lincoln, representing that first vote. The actual medallion now is down in New Orleans at the University of Southern in New Orleans. Southern. So, but the painting itself, I decided to do the mixed media on this painting to give it more texture and more representation of what he would do. Thomas itself always liked to dress up and have a suit on when he was out in public. He always wore the medallion. Once he found and once that medallion was given to him, he was given that medallion. So he always carried that with him and wore it on his suit proudly as being the first African American to vote in the United States.
This piece of artwork is entitled Still I Rise Emoji. And this was a very kind of whimsical and fun piece to do. And this piece actually combines utilizing social media because many young people, adults, they all know about emojis. And now, as Leroy mentioned earlier, we are in a very poignant year. This is the year of the suffrage for the American woman. So this piece was actually created based on that concept about the suffrage movement. And this piece is full with many colors, multiple colors, as this individual, this emoji, is kind of going around in concentric circle in this tunnel. And so this piece represents the challenges, the changes, sacrifices that were made for the American woman during the suffrage movement, starting from the very inner core of this tunnel. And with each concentric turn or ring, they were able to rise up and eventually achieve that right for the suffrage. Now, the emoji here represent the role of African American women was a little bit different. Even though in 1920, the 20th Amendment was ratified, but this was a group that was slightly left out of that movement. So it represents that despite all the challenges that they had to endure, they still pushed forward. They still pushed to help the other people and groups to achieve what they needed to, but they never gave up on that right to achieve the right for suffrage also. In the little boat, I have like the Statue of Liberty. So they hung on to that concept about the right to freedom, right, equality, justice. And we had many people that were involved in the suffrage movement, and I think one of the more prominent ones for African American women would be Ida B. Wells. And there were many others, even many figures, other people participated. It was numerous ones. So this is a piece of history that is untold, but now more people know about it. So this just, again, the concept is, despite all the challenges and things that they had to face and dealt with, they stated, I still rise.